Do you suffer from intrusive thoughts? And have they become worse now that you're pregnant or now that you've just become a parent? Maybe they've started because of the fact that you are now caring for someone else beside of yourself. The responsibility is weighing heavy on your shoulders and your intrusive thoughts seem to have accelerated. They're horrible and they're dominating your life. So why is that happening to you? Now, why aren't any of the other mums around you suffering from this? Why isn't your best friend who just had her baby suffering from intrusive thoughts? Why doesn't your partner understand that you're having them? And why isn't he or she suffering from them? So why are you going through hell and back with all these horrendous thoughts and images and compulsions? What makes you different from them when they've also just become a parent, just like yourself? Well, probably because you are overcomplicating things and they are able to move on quicker. And that doesn't sound very nice, but that probably is, for a very big part, what's happening. And it doesn't mean that they don't have similar thoughts to yours, because yes, they will most likely also think, for example, about a car crash happening to them and their family, just after they've watched that horrible news item about a family being injured in a big collision in a highway, for example. Just like you, they will think about these things. But the difference is they think, most likely they shudder, and then move on because they can stay with the present reality. Whereas you think, you shudder, you think some more, you make it bigger. You attach anxious feelings to the thoughts. You think a little deeper. You connect all sorts of other life events and you think some more. And you get yourself completely stuck in a negative spiral of thoughts that you're struggling to detach yourself from these thoughts. You're charging the intrusive thought. You're charging it with your emotions. It's like you're charging the battery of your phone. Like, the more you charge these thoughts with fuel, the better and longer they will stick. And, if you don't give it fuel like the battery of a phone, the battery will die and there's no point in picking up that phone, so you just leave it. And that's what people do who don't get sucked into intrusive thinking. They can let these thoughts go. They don't give them fuel for them to be charged up to a point where they can repeatedly come back and they get stronger and stronger and more convincing and have a bigger influence on your life. If there's no phone, there's no phone calls, there's no apps to open up, then there's no social media, there's no distraction, there's just a thought and it goes away again. But with a fully charged battery, you get the whole scala of thoughts and feelings and emotions and memories and vivid scenes that will play around in your head, and they will activate anxiety and they will trigger you, in all the right places or all the wrong places. So basically, I'm telling you to stop charging the thoughts with strong emotions, and that battery will eventually fizzle out. If you don't give it a chance to charge and to recharge over and over again, eventually there'll be nothing left. Because the charging with emotions is exactly the cause of why the thoughts keep returning. And the powered up battery is making them return stronger and better with a vengeance. If you let them fizzle out and don't give them any power, then there's nothing to think about. But then the question is, how do you do that? Because I'm making it sound really easy when I know from personal experience that it really is not. So how do you stop your emotional train of thoughts when they start to happen? Well, when a thought comes into your head, the challenge is to try to look at the thought objectively. Try to describe the scene in words without detaching any emotion to them. And I'll try and give you an example. So you see a horror movie scene on TV. And most likely there'll be scary music. It'll be dark. It's a woman yelling. She's running through a house. And then you see an unrecognizably masked person with a knife slowly walking up the steps. And he is after that woman and he's going to stab her to death. And there's going to be lots of blood. That was a very subjective story because I've never seen this movie. And I just assumed that, first of all, it's a man instead of a woman. And I've assumed that he is about to stab this yelling woman. I assumed there was going to be lots of blood. I was bracing myself for a horrible bloody scene. But really looking at the scene objectively, if there were no music or sound or whatever attached to it, without all these assumptions and all these feelings, the scene would be a lot more boring than what I've just described. No feelings, emotions, no assumptions, then this would be the scene. Listen to this. Music is playing. A woman in a dark staircase runs up the stairs. She is yelling. Another person walks up the staircase with a knife in his or her hand. And that doesn't sound as scary and as intimidating as that first scene that I described. And I'm saying this a wee bit jokingly. I know that this is extremely serious. But you see that now I have challenged the scene by taking all the emotions and all the assumption out of the scene. And then I've tried to look at it from a different perspective. What meaning did I attach to that first scene? Am I maybe trying to give the scene a meaning of impending danger? Yes, and most likely it was there, but I made lots of stuff up around it. Did it make me feel uncomfortable? That first scene? Yes. Did the second scene make me feel uncomfortable? A lot less. So how can I get away from feeling that discomfort without letting my thoughts taking a hold of me and to charge that battery with intrusive thoughts? And maybe I can switch that TV to a different channel. Or maybe I can switch it off completely when I see scenes like this to distract myself with something that gives me a nicer feeling. And then I can evade that intrusive thought. And again, I know it sounds simple, and this will probably take a lot of effort and a lot of practice. But by training your mind to think more objectively and try to see the meaning behind a thought instead of going ahead and taking a deep dive into the thought and attaching lots of emotions and feelings to it, that may stop the thought from spiraling out of control into an intrusive way of thinking. And by giving that thought less fuel, a little less and a little less every time, by training yourself to continuously not give in to attaching those feelings and these assumptions and all these emotions to the thought, the battery of the thought will start to lower and hopefully eventually fizzle out completely. Now, I know that's going to take a lot of time and effort to do, and it'll not happen tomorrow, but it's something that even if you just start to think slightly differently, there can be a shift in the way that you think, and that can really help towards you getting away from the really bad, horrible, intrusive thinking. And by training your brain, hopefully it'll get less and less and less over time. Believe me, I've been there, I've done it. I know how horrible it is to have these thoughts. And I just wish you well in trying to get rid of them altogether, because they can be so completely life taking over. And that's just not where we want to be, especially now that we have this beautiful little baby boy or baby girl to take care of, and they really need us. So I hope this video helps. I hope it inspires you to at least try and make a shift in the way that you think. And if you need any help with this, then please reach out. Thanks for listening. Take care.